All right, we are going to get started. Um, and we're going to get started in prayer. So, welcome everyone to Network Advocates See Love Vote training. And let's just take a moment to settle ourselves. Maybe you just finished dinner. Maybe you're watching this before the rest of your evening begins. Um, if you're out on the West Coast. So we're just grateful for everyone. I know a few more folks will be joining us, but we're going to start. So, Lord, please give us the wisdom to see the damage being done to our democracy by those who would mislead, deflect, disrupt for the sake of disruption and power, and deny the humanity of others. Give us the courage to learn, witness, to speak up and out, to protect the right of all to vote and be heard. Help us to connect our fellow citizens and commit to their well-being. Lord, help us renew and nurture our country's ideal of liberty and justice for all. And as we engage, defend, and rebuild, may we trust in your mercy and justice and follow your paths, committing our efforts to your wisdom and guidance. Help us, Lord, to resist tyranny in all its forms. And let the church say, Amen. So I am so grateful that everyone is here tonight, and just know we had quite a crowd yesterday at the noon hour. So we are certainly just here at the network community, not alone in our efforts. So the way we're going to spend our time tonight is do a little stage setting. Why are we here in this moment in August preparing for these elections? An overview of our nonpartisan See Love Vote campaign. Then Catherine is going to review some basics of organizing your community and building those relationships. Then we're going to talk through specific tactics that Network is using this election season through See Love Vote that we're hoping everyone can partake in what they feel called to do. You'll have some time in small group to share what you're thinking about doing, or maybe you've already tried something. We'll do some large group, and there'll be some time for questions and answers. So, but before we begin, I just want to remind everybody that for our time tonight and just for the work ahead, that Network Advocates See Love Vote campaign, it is nonpartisan. It is a voter education and mobilization effort about our issues. That means it's not about candidates, not about parties. And at any time during this workshop, and even in your breakout rooms, please try this. Do not express support for or opposition to a particular candidate or party. All right? So thanks so much. So now we're going to get started. All right. So if you're like me, the 2026 midterm election feels different and heavier. And there's a reason for that. And that's because the conditions under which they are taking place have changed. A large majority of political scientists around the globe agree that the US is no longer a democracy. They're calling what is happening an authoritarian coup, meaning that the administration is rapidly consolidating power that is shaped by the interest of and benefiting white Christian nationalists, the ultra wealthy, and corporations, instead of everyday people. While democracy has never been granted or experienced equally across race and class in this country, we have also lost sight of why democracy is important, why we need to participate as voters, as constituents, and as individual citizens, and how our rights and ability to thrive as individuals, families, communities, and as a nation depend on a fully functioning democracy. At the same time, though, democracy can be a heady concept that doesn't mean much when you're worried about paying a medical bill or finding a job after you graduate from college, or if you're wondering if there's going to be armed guards at your polling place. And we here at Network know that inspiring people to vote, to participate in this process, and to stop the consolidation of authoritarian power means that we need to show people that they have the power to elect officials who will work for all of us, we the people, and invest in communities, protect human dignity, and support policies that make life more affordable and livable for all of us. So, in terms of Sea Love Vote, we see this really as an antidote to the authoritarianism. We see coming together in community. We see all of you engaging your neighbors in this important work while you're here tonight. These are all ways that we are going to stand up and stop the consolidation of authoritarian power. So, of course, yes, our Sea Love Vote campaign, while open to all who share our passion, is rooted in the Catholic social tradition of our right and responsibility to vote, the call to participate in all aspects of political, economic, and cultural life, and the call to love our neighbor. It is certainly, yes, it is a get out the vote effort for the 2026 midterm. And yes, it is about getting people to the polls, but it is also equipping them with the factual knowledge about how to vote, how to register, IDs that they may need at the poll, how to vote early, if there's early voting dates, and all of those things that can make voting seem kind of complicated. And by focusing on our values and our community needs, healthcare, affordable housing, clean water, and so much more, we hope that we can help rebuild trust in our democratic institutions and government structures for the long haul. So I'm really excited to share that we are now at about 62 partners in this work. Both Catholic, multi-faith, and secular partners have signed on to Sea Love Vote. And this is just thousands of people across the country, people of faith and who share our values, who have said, yes, we are going to the polls to respond to the issues in our community because we love our neighbors and we love our community, and we are going to vote because we believe it can make a difference in this world. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Catherine, who's going to talk about organizing.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. It is really good to be here with you all. Very excited to share in this training experience with you. We put together this training to help equip you all to engage meaningfully this election season. However, we aren't just organizing to educate our neighbors or get out the vote. We are organizing to meet the moment, and the moment extends far beyond November. We are organizing to build power because we believe that together we can make life better in our communities. We are organizing to build a country where all of us can thrive. If this feels just a little bit ambitious, I have some good news for you. The whole point of organizing is we don't have to do it alone. Whether you are kicking off a brand new organizing journey or looking to take your engagement to the next level, relational organizing is a really great place to start. As our friends at the NAACP define it, relational organizing is the use of existing personal networks to drive social change or political action. Or, simply put, it is talking to the people that you know personally and asking them to take action on something. So we encourage you to think about who it is you already know, people you're already in relationship with that you might invite into the work. And at Network, we have a lot of really beautiful examples of this. Some of our advocates have done tabling at their parishes, helping to register voters and get out the vote. Other advocates have hosted house parties or gatherings at their homes, inviting friends and family over to fold zines, to draft letters to the editor, or even to write postcards. And all of these activities are meaningful opportunities to engage in election work. However, they are also really great opportunities to deepen relationships, invite other people into the work, and build power in our local communities. That said, it is very necessary to look beyond just our personal existing relationships and networks if we want to build the type of change and the type of power necessary for this real transformation. On the screen, you can see what we call the spectrum of support. It is essentially a power map for our movements. Who do we need to work with and move in our communities to make the type of change we want to see? It helps us to identify where people are when it comes to our demands and to consider ways to move them to be closer to us. Most importantly, it helps us to determine strategies to get folks to act with us. And so if you look at the spectrum of support, you can see on the one side, you've got the movement, that would be us. And next to it, you've got the active allies. These are the folks who agree with our values and are already taking action alongside us. Next to that, you have the passive supporters. These are the folks who agree with our values, but aren't doing anything about it yet. Then you've got the neutral folks. These are the folks who maybe aren't sure, or maybe they don't care, or maybe they're just uninformed. Then you have the passive opposition. These are the folks who disagree with our values, but aren't doing anything to stop us. Then you have the active opposition. These are the folks who disagree with us and are taking action against us. And then you have the opposition. These are the folks who are funding and leading the efforts to counter our values. So now I encourage you to think about a campaign that you're familiar with or maybe you've been involved in. Who would you put on this spectrum of support? So one example that I really like is the Raise the Wage campaign. And so if you think about the Raise the Wage campaign, on the one side, you've got the movement. This might be worker centers, labor unions, low-wage workers. And then next to the movement, you've got the active allies. These could be young people who are looking for jobs. This could be local community groups that are supportive. And these are the folks that you want to deepen their commitment and create opportunities for them to engage, for them to get involved, to become part of the movement. Then you've got the passive supporters. In some communities, this looks like the local faith community. Think about how you can deepen their commitment and create opportunities. Oh, sorry. You want to think about why are they passive? You want to think about how you can get them in the door. You want to shake them up a little bit and get them excited and interested in what you're doing. So next to the passive supporters, you've got the neutrals. You've got your middle income folks, maybe some retirees. These are folks who are maybe not directly impacted by the issue themselves, but there's an opportunity to really build a relationship with them and get them interested in what you're working on. Next to the neutrals, you've got the passive opponents. This might be fiscal conservatives. And these are folks that you want to address their fears and concerns. After that, you've got the active opponents. This might be like the Chamber of Commerce or the National or Local Restaurant Association. With the active opponents, you want to expose their interests, you want to contrast them with our goals and our values, and you want to reduce their legitimacy. And then on the far end of the spectrum, you've got the opposition. And oftentimes, especially in the Raise the Wage movement, this looks like big corporations, billionaires, folks who really think that they have a lot to lose if the wages were to be raised. So, as you do your organizing, I do encourage you to think through the spectrum of support and really think about where folks are and think about how you can move them to be closer to you on the spectrum. And keep in mind, oftentimes people don't jump from neutral to the movement. It's usually a more gradual process than that. You gotta move them inch by inch sometimes. But you do always want to have folks moving closer to you on the spectrum. And just a final note, it is an election year. And so you are going to spend most of your energy on passive supporters and maybe some of the neutral folks. However, in the long haul, you do have more time and capacity to invest in folks who might be further down on the spectrum. And that brings me to belonging before belief. Because belonging before belief is one way to help people move on the issues that we care about. It is an approach that prioritizes creating a sense of community and belonging first, before anything else. You want to get folks in the door, or maybe you want to get them into the park where the rally is being held. You want them to feel welcomed and like they're part of something really meaningful. And I just want to name that this requires us all to be a little bit more open about who we are welcoming into our spaces. We need to hold that tension of people maybe disagreeing with us on some issues that we really do care about, issues that matter a whole lot, but also agreeing with us on other issues. So they might not agree with us on everything, but maybe they agree with us on something. And I just also want to name, I mean, the truth of the matter is what I am proposing is hard. It is so much easier for us to live within our silos, working alongside all those folks who we agree with on everything, right? Sometimes it's more comfortable to do that, and we would much rather do that. However, if we want to meet the moment and build the power that is necessary for this movement to succeed, it's going to require much broader participation. And so the good news is there's some really interesting data to back up what we're talking about here with belonging before belief. In one study, sociologists found that almost half of the activists on the front lines of a particular issue, these are folks who were attending protests in person, they were not issue aligned when they first attended their first event. They attended because a friend asked them, or maybe they had joined a new church. They attended because they were retired and they had more free time. They were looking for something to do. They stayed, however, because at these events, they found the things that we all want and we all look for. Friends, responsibility, a sense of what they were doing matters. And so by finding fellowship, by finding this sense of belonging, people changed not only their views on the issue, but also their commitment to act. And so we refer to this as the behave, belong, believe pathway. A person might initially participate in an action because a friend invited them, but then they find the sense of fellowship, they find the sense of community and work that fulfills their psychological needs, and their beliefs actually change through their participation. So again, if somebody isn't 100% aligned with you on all the issues right now, it doesn't mean there's no hope because people can transform in their values and beliefs. And so how do we make that happen? Well, one good way to do it is through relationship. And whether you're doing relational organizing with close friends and family or broader community organizing, you want to do some one-on-ones. One-on-ones are the most basic and fundamental tool of organizing. One-on-ones are a great opportunity to build and grow relationships. And we know that when people are in relationship, they can share, they can plan, they can create, and they can get things done. We are so much more effective and powerful when we work together versus when we're just in our own little silos. And so, as I mentioned, you might do a one-on-one to build a new relationship. Maybe you met somebody really interesting at a rally or an event and you want to get to know them better. But you also might do a one-on-one to build a new type of relationship. Maybe you've been friends or acquaintances with somebody for a really long time, but you want to connect with them in a way that's related to the movement. So, What exactly is a one-on-one? Well, one-on-ones are intentional conversations. And when you are inviting someone into a one-on-one, you want to be very clear about the purpose. So, for example, you might say, at church on Sunday, you mentioned your concerns about what ICE is doing in our community. And I would really like to hear more about that. I would also like to share a little bit about what our local group is doing here to respond. If you can help it, you don't want to sneak attack somebody with a one-on-one and really surprise them. Um, that said, I have to laugh a little bit because as an organizer, the more one-on-ones you do, I think the more you will find yourself one-on-oneing without even meaning to. One of my colleagues talks about how she was in the back of a taxi and talking to another organizer, and before she knew it, she was doing a one-on-one without even meaning to. It just kind of happens sometimes because you're going to do so many of them and it becomes so natural. Well, what else though? One-on-ones are typically structured conversations. There's a pretty basic formula for your time together, certain boxes that you want to try and check, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. These conversations are typically 30 to 45 minutes in length, and your main role is asking questions and listening to the answers. In fact, an organizer might spend 70% of the one-on-one just listening. So active listening is going to be really, really key here. And finally, a one-on-one is about building or deepening a relationship for a purpose. This is not just venting. This is not just being a friend. You are gathering information, you are building trust, and you are hopefully bringing this person into the work with you. So, what does this actually look like? Well, as I mentioned, there's a basic formula. You want to really get to know someone as a person. What is their story? How long have they lived in the community? What do they do for work? What do they do for fun? Who are the most important people in their life? You want to find out what are the issues that they care about? What are they passionate about? What motivates them? What are their values? And perhaps most important of all, you want to ask questions that help them to develop clarity. How does a particular situation or issue make them feel? How is the issue impacting their loved ones or their community? Who or what is causing the problem? Who's in a position to fix it? What would they have to do to fix the problem? And so some organizers refer to this as agitation, which unfortunately is a word that sometimes has a little bit of a negative connotation. However, I really like how David Liners, the wisdom director in Wisconsin, has said, agitation is about challenging each other to be our best selves. It is helping people to identify the obstacles that keep them from being the amazing people God created them to be. This requires building relationships because usually we can only hear agitation from people we trust and who we know want what's best for us. And so, as you're asking these questions and hopefully helping them to develop some clarity, I want you to pay special attention to the types of feelings that they describe and maybe ask some follow-up questions about those. Is someone feeling frustrated or hurt or angry or hopeful or excited? And again, it's important to note that the whole time you should be the one asking questions, so you're asking, not telling. You want folks to reach the conclusions on their own. And so to do this, we do encourage you to ask open-ended questions and then be prepared to wait. Sometimes you want to give them up to 20 seconds to respond. And I know that can feel like a really long time. It can feel like an awkward amount of time. But I have to say, far more often than not, it is worth it. When you have to talk about something out loud, when you have to take that time to articulate something, it forces you to think through things in a different way and really to like articulate those thoughts and those feelings and to develop some clarity. Also, as you are talking, I remind you, you might not agree on everything, and it's okay not to agree on everything. Keep asking questions. See if you can find some common ground. And if everything is going well up until this point, if you're finding that common ground space, the next important step is to make an ask. And this is sharing an opportunity to get involved. And you want to be really clear and specific about your ask. And oftentimes you want to make a really hard ask. So rather than a soft ask, which might be, oh, would you like to help out sometime? You might say, hey, do you want to come to this event on this date at this time and help out in this way? And be prepared. You might get a no. But also, you need to recognize there are different types of no's. As an organizer, I get no's sometimes. It happens. But there are different kinds. There is no, not then, which could be just someone saying, I'm not available. I've got other plans on Sunday. There's also no, not that. Maybe door knocking is really not their thing, and maybe there's 100 other things they would love to help out with, but door knocking is just not for everybody, and that's okay. There is no, not ever. And that's really, I just don't have capacity to take on something new right now. And so I encourage you to pay close attention and consider offering an alternative opportunity as appropriate. And finally, as you finish out your time together, gather a little bit more information. Make sure you have a way to stay in touch. Is the best way phone or email or text? Is there anything else you should know about them? Who else do they recommend that you talk with? And then, of course, you want to say thank you. You want to express your deep gratitude for them sharing a little bit of their story with you. And then afterwards, I do encourage you to write down some highlights from your conversation because hopefully you're going to be having lots and lots and lots of one-on-ones, and you want to keep track of all the different people and all the different ways they might engage. And lastly, perhaps most important of all, you want to follow up. In the wise words of organizer Fred Ross, 90% of organizing is follow-up. And it's interesting, when I started out as an organizer in Texas, um, I would regularly ask someone to do something, and it was oftentimes come to a rally or something like that. And they would say yes, and I thought I was done. And then when they didn't show up, I was just completely baffled. Since then, over many years, I have come to realize that that organizing, that follow-up piece is really, really key. And so that is why so many of you who are on my advocate teams get lots and lots of reminder emails. It's really, really important to follow up. So speaking of which, I want to build off on that a little bit more because it is so incredibly important. Following up is absolutely critical when you are trying to build power. And so anytime you are hosting an event, or even sometimes just attending an event with your group, you want to make sure you are thinking about follow-up. And so I encourage you, have a team debrief already scheduled. This is something that maybe you want to build into your regular team meetings if that's something you're doing. Or sometimes it's as simple as, you know what, after the event, we're all going to go and we're all going to get coffee and we're all going to chat about our experience and debrief together in that moment while it's still really fresh. And we do also encourage you to conduct some one-on-ones as part of your follow-up. Think about who you met, who you talked to, who you want to build a deeper relationship with, who you want to bring into the work, and then follow up with them. Schedule a one-on-one, and be sure again to include next steps for them to engage because we want to be moving people, whether it's moving them closer to you on the spectrum of support or moving them up the ladder of engagement. We want to be moving people. And so when organizing, you also always want to be thinking about ways to keep folks engaged and involved in meaningful ways, to move them up the ladder of support, to develop leaders. And so, yeah, the next steps, the clear follow-up is really, really, really important. And sometimes you want to do individual follow-up when people make commitments. That can be a phone call, that can be an email or a text, or maybe it's an in-person check-in. If you see somebody at church or you see them on a regular basis, take the time to pull them aside and check in. It really does make a difference when you have that intentional follow-up. You want folks to know that you're serious so that they will take their commitment seriously too. And you also want to be really, really intentional about your follow-up with key leaders. For example, maybe there's a faith leader or a nonprofit leader that you want to grow in relationship with. Take the time to do that one-on-one. Share your vision with them. Invite them to share their wisdom and their connections. I find that most of the time people really do want to be helpful. And so create opportunities for them to help. And so speaking of opportunities, I'm going to turn things back over to Meg so she can share a little bit more about some of the opportunities that we at Network have created with Sea Love Vote.
Thanks so much, Catherine. All right, so let's talk about how you are going to engage. Maybe you've already started engaging this election season. And just so I want to just talk briefly about a fairly new initiative. You may have seen a few emails in the past month or two, couple of months talking about network squads. Some of you might be on an advocates team, which is amazing. Thank you. We do have teams just in 12 states right now because we only have capacity to facilitate so many places. But what we realize is even in a close, tight-knit city like Philadelphia, sometimes you need the smaller, hyper-local, smaller groups to make things happen, particularly in an election season when we're talking about precincts and wards and even congressional districts that run into each other across the city. So our squads are really designed for, 3 to 5 people who can come together in person and work together in a nimble way that, we're offering different actions every month. And it's really the opportunity to engage the community around them, build that power, which means you're developing skills, you're getting better at the one-to-ones. You might be, you know, really focusing on follow-up, which I was definitely agitated by that about a month ago. And I said, Catherine, we really need to talk about it. And ultimately creating change in your community, even in just a small group. So, so every month we have what we call our squad goals. And Catherine, you're going to get a follow-up email from Catherine that has the link so you can see all of this. But for example, for August, but they're not going to change very much this fall because they are every action or a goal is rooted in Sea Love Vote. So for August, those goals include sharing network Sea Love Vote resources at your faith community or like through tabling at coffee hour, or just putting up some resources in the back in the narthex or in the back of the hall. Hosting a postcard writing party. I'm sure there might be at least one person on here. My gosh, we've sent out close to I don't know, almost 20,000 postcards in the last couple of weeks across the country to folks who are writing. So I think some of you might be doing that. Or hosting a letter to the editor party where you would come together, right? It's really great. To practice writing these in community. We have talking points. Again, this is all about Sea Love Vote. What are some of the challenges you're seeing in your community? Maybe it's that so many people have lost their SNAP benefits and more people are coming to the food pantry. And that you're responding with love, you're volunteering at the food pantry, you're donating, but that's just not enough. And so this fall, you are going to go to the polls and vote because you know that that is the best way that we can make large systemic change and make sure that no family goes hungry. So maybe I just wrote your postcard for you, giving that example. But I'm sure you all have challenges that you're looking at in your community. So other activities, whether you create a formal squad or are coming together with your local just faith sharing group, or maybe kind of a hybrid of indivisible folks and your parish social justice committee and your neighbors down the street, there are lots of things you could do. I'm going to jump down because we talked about those first three. Later on, as we get closer to November and election day. So I would say this is a good activity for September, maybe early October, is having a ballot research party. And this would be an opportunity, right? There are so many things on our ballots. The first time I ever voted, it was in Chicago. I had done some of the research. I had read the Trib and the Sun Times and looked at some of my candidates. And then I got my ballot and I had 20 judges and I was supposed to like select 8 or something. Well, I just like sat there and was like, I felt like I was a kid who had failed the test or forgotten to study. So ballot research parties allows you to divide up the labor, figure out who is on your ballot, what are all those ballot initiatives. My gosh, uh, prayers if you're in California, there's often like 50 or so, and figure out what they even mean. So just doing that research together so everyone feels really confident going to the polls. We have a new zine that actually with pictures and simple words help people know how to get from voter registration to the polling place. And so maybe it's you're going to a place with new voters, young voters. You can share this little resource with them. They can keep it in their pocket. They can, it has links so they can check their status or check where their polling place is, all of those things. We have our See Love Vote checklist, which is how we can evaluate candidates. Maybe you just want to, again, you could use this at your ballot research party or just if you're talking with friends or neighbors about, who's running for office, looking at values and issues. Maybe you want to take the checklist to a town hall and go together and ask some questions. Maybe you want to go register some voters. You could set up a table maybe at your parish or at a social service agency or at the library, just figuring out whether you can do this to help register new voters. Or we have this really great toolkit that is rooted in synodality and deep listening and economic justice, and really bringing people together to come think about what does it look like to participate in the economy, but what does the economy do to us, for us? Exploring like what are the challenges we're facing these days? Why are groceries so high? What is our vision for what it would look like to be able to fully participate in the economic, political, and cultural life of our country? What would it mean if we actually got 8 hours of work and rest and leisure in our lives? What could we do? So all of these things are on our website, our See Love Vote, and we will continue to have new resources that that you can use, that you can download, that you can share with your friends, so that we can all come together and find out what is ours to do and really live into to this election season and beyond, as Catherine said, but really using these activities to generate that dialogue, generate that sense of belonging, and getting, gosh, if your team sends 100 postcards, wow, that feels so great. What can you do next? So building that sense of efficacy and hopefully joy in the process as well. So, so now that we've given you a sense of how you can approach the work and what you need to do, our tech person, our lovely Chelsea, is going to put you into some small groups for some discussion and reflection on what we've been talking about. So, your questions to think about in your breakout rooms, you're going to be in groups of three. So, probably about three people, yeah, about 2 minutes, 3 minutes a person tops, thinking about what organizing you might be able to do in your local context. And what from this menu of tactics do you think you might want to engage in this season with See Love Vote? So you are all about to all get into rooms, and we'll see you back here in about 7 or 8 minutes.
And just flagging, you might have to click the little button that says, like, yes, you'll go to this room. I don't think And here they come. Welcome back.
There we go.
Hi,
Welcome back,
everyone.
everyone.
Hope you all had some good conversations in your breakout rooms. We know that that is not nearly enough time to share. So we do encourage you, if you had a good conversation with your small group, maybe hop into the chat and share some contact information so you can follow up, continue the conversation, and keep each other posted about your work and maybe hold each other accountable and check in and say, hey, did you end up having your postcard party? Or hey, did you do your other event? But now we do want to hear a little bit from all of you about what your plans are. What did you talk about in your small group? How are you going to engage in election work? How are you going to build power in your local community? We would love to hear what you had to say. So, can I get a couple of volunteers to raise their hand, preferably using the raise hand function, just because there's enough of you that I can't see you all on the screen. But I would love to know what you chatted about in your small group. Any brave volunteers?
I don't know how to raise my hand.
Oh, that's okay.
Nan, are you trying to jump in?
Yeah.
Jump on in.
Oh, you're my girl. So I was talking a little bit. I live in Los Angeles. We're the Immaculate Heart community that became an interfaith community in 1970. So you may have heard of us or seen a movie about us, Rebel Hearts. We've continued now for many years since 1970, and we're vibrant. But our light is fading as we age. My current concern is our main office is in the heart of Los Angeles, in the heart of ICE. Our constituents or groups of contact we have, even through Greg Boyle, and they're just afraid to leave the house, even to the registered citizen people are terrified to go out of their house and put a ballot in a box. I don't know how to help that. You? I don't know if I would be arrested if I took ballots and put them in a box at my library. They just don't want to leave the house. We're bringing them food at this point. They don't want to go to the store. My mailman won't go to the store unless he wears his uniform. So I'm talking terror right now.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really hard reality that a lot of communities are dealing with right now. And in terms of the delivering of ballots and that kind of thing, I know there's different laws in every state, and so I
Right.
can't speak to California
Yeah.
specifically. I certainly am not telling anyone to break the law. I think everyone should look into what the rules are in their own states. Um, but beyond that, I mean, yeah, it's a very, very hard reality. And I don't know that I have a great answer or solution, but I'd be certainly happy to talk with our immigration advocate, Giovanna, and see what she's hearing from communities and if there's any.
I'd
Um,
love to get that contact.
Yeah.
Do
What
I
I'm
have
also,
enough info for you to contact me?
yes.
All right. Well, God
But
bless you all. It's wonderful.
what I was also going to say, though, Nan, is what I'm hearing, especially through the Catholics in Communion effort, is,
Yeah.
and we see this with communities who are also accompanying people to ICE check-ins, but
Yeah.
a large group of folks, right? If we form a 50-person, like imagine like safe walk to school or something like they do with kids, kind of a brigade to a polling place. They can't stop, like,
We
right?
don't have that.
A
We're
lot of
mostly seniors.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are other organizations who are doing that, so I think it just takes a
Thank
little.
you for listening.
You're welcome.
we'll
So
do a little
other
digging
things
into
that folks
those.
are going to do this season. I saw a little chatter about postcard parties.
I was interested in the postcards if I came through. I don't know. Um, I think it's a great idea. Last year or 2 years ago, I got a postcard from somebody I don't know where, and I was obviously planning to vote, but it was like, well, this is nice. I don't know who this person is. They don't know who I am, but yeah, I I plan to do that one way or the other. And just to mention to the previous lady, I know in Ohio. You cannot collect, you know, 100 mail-in ballots and put them in the box at the Board of Elections. You cannot, absolutely not do that. And there's even some other things, new laws related to that. So yeah, you have to find out what the local state law is.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what's so important. We all need to be educating ourselves about what the laws are in our towns and our cities, states, communities, so that we are educated for ourselves and also so we can share that information with the people in our lives. But
Uh,
also just super excited to hear you're into postcard parties.
yes. And I did see a question specifically about the postcards. And yes, when you order the postcards, you will get a list of addresses. It's a completely nonpartisan list of Catholic voters, either from Michigan, Iowa, or Pennsylvania. So, Dee Dee.
I'm also doing a postcard party for a hundred cards, but they're coming from another nonpartisan organization.
Uh,
But it's all nonpartisan. And I was telling my small group that there was a couple people that chose not to come, and I let that be because they do not sit. And I have a new pastor in my church, and I heard about the posters and everything you guys have. So I'm gonna go over and meet with him and tell him about this and see if he would be willing to put up the posters in the church.
great. Thanks
Wonderful.
so much.
And just a reminder, anything with the See Love Vote logo on it is nonpartisan, which means it's safe for churches to use and congregations and other folks who are concerned about that 501(c) status.
Yeah. Joyce?
I just want to share, I shared with my group that I had just recently read the report from the National Urban League at their conference on the state of Black America. And one of the recommendations that they made, and we could all take it, is that if we put the link to voter registration on anything, that we encourage the people that receive it to use that link more than once, to check their registration the first time, but then as it gets closer to the election, to check it again, because they're trying to scour the voting rolls and they may take somebody's name off and you may not realize it till you get to the polls. So that's what we're telling. They suggested that people check their registration 3 times before the election day. That's how important it is.
Wow. Thanks so much, Joyce. Yeah, I mean, I think we're really trying to make sure that people have really factual information around pieces like that as well. So, and as you know, we hear a lot about election protection, and so much of it is safeguarding voters so that their voices are actually heard, that their ballot actually counts. So, thanks so much for that information.
And just a reminder, on our website, you've got both voter registration and a space
Right.
to check your status.
That's where we
Um,
got it from your
there you
website. But
go.
we're sending it out digitally though. We're not doing the postcards. We had
Great.
a young, I was telling them we have a very young person in our group and she said, nobody reads a paper. And we have people in 4 different congregations all across. So we decided in order for them to reach their constituencies, they can just send them to the people that they know in their circles and they'll get them.
Great.
Well, and something that one of our folks did last year that I really liked was they put that little link in their signature of their emails. So every time they emailed anyone during election season, they had the little message at the bottom, check your voter registration, and you can
That's
do it right
great.
here. So it makes it very easy.
Julia.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking my question. I'm from New Hampshire in a very conservative part of the world. And so I am looking for other folks from New Hampshire. So how can I meet anybody else that's in the network? Or if other people, by the way, from around the country know have friends in New Hampshire that could be um, helpful, interested folks, that'd be great. How do I do that?
Julia, I just talked to somebody from New Hampshire yesterday who is looking to connect with other people from New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's Joe
Small world.
Michon. Yeah, that's
So
Joe, and he and I have already connected and said he had talked to you, and he said there must be others, and so
There
so far
are.
it's the three of us. So see if you can find anybody else that's part of the network and send
Do you
them our.
know Ronald Renee? Sorry, people from New Hampshire are coming out of
No,
the woodwork this week. All right.
Ronald Renee?
Yeah.
No.
we can get you connected to some folks. Don't worry.
Yes.
Okay, so how should I do that? Contact you and then you can make the
Yeah.
connection?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can run a list of action takers from New Hampshire and put you
thanks.
all in touch.
Thank you.
All right, friends. Well, I think that's about all we have time for this evening. But again, there is going to be a follow-up email with all of the links that we have discussed this evening with tons of resources. As Meg mentioned earlier, I encourage you to check out the website and then check out the website again because it feels like we are adding new resources all the time. And so lastly, I'll just say keep us posted. Let us know about how you're engaging. We would love to hear updates from you. We would love to work through any challenges with you. And we hope that you will stay connected with us on all this. Meg, anything to add?
No, just excited to see all of your plans coming into to fruition now through November. So, and again, yes, we will have some more check-ins through the fall, just so people can report out how they're doing. So stay tuned, and we will continue to have lots of resources. So, so be well and don't hesitate. We're getting phone calls from every corner of the country these days, and it's really fun to chat and troubleshoot and dream with y'all. So keep calling. All right, take care, everyone. Have a good evening.